Welcome, everybody, to the Concussion Protocol podcast. We've got Chase, Connor, and myself, Chance, and we're going to talk about the Big 10 today, or the Big 18, or whatever it is. Lots of teams in the conference, lots to talk about. Connor's been doing a little bit of research, and we're going to turn it over to him.
Yeah, let's just talk about the Big 10 as a whole real quick. It's kind of another case of the usual suspects, but we're hoping this year that some of the changes might stick. Unfortunately, it's not super optimistic. We had a couple teams last year, Illinois and Indiana specifically, making some big noise. Indiana with their historically best season ever, and a couple of top 15 defense stats, and it was really impressive. Obviously, making the playoff, and a lot of people were super excited to see some new blood get in the mix with that. And we're gonna kind of break down where these teams are now, how the portal affected some of them, and talk about what might be the more important than the portal sometimes is culture building and retention in this day and age. Let's start off with kind of the big one, that the big two that everyone wants to talk about. We got Oregon and Ohio State as the clear front runners again. Oregon has been a powerhouse football team for a long time, and that's no secret. What Dan Lanning specifically has been putting together there over the last few years, really, it's looking like the peak of Oregon, even through some of the the Marcus Mariota years and all that, with several of the phenomenal coaches that they've had. But their ability in this day and age with the transfer portal and with NIL and everything to not skip a beat is pretty phenomenal. They look to be just as loaded as they were last year. Now, a lot of people are going to be talking about the QB situation, obviously losing Dylan Gabriel in the draft, and I believe he finished 5th or something like that in the Heisman. Phenomenal talent, but he didn't start off that heralded coming into Oregon. They took a little bit of a risk on him. He had success everywhere he went, but he had not shown superstar elite status until he got to Oregon. And so it's very obvious in that culture that they're developing their players. And they lost a couple of big people in the portal, but they are loaded with incoming 5-star and 4-star talent. Their quarterback coming in is likely to be Dante Moore, who hasn't played a ton of college ball. He played a little bit at UCLA and then transferred to Oregon, where he backed up Dylan Gabriel last year. But his potential is through the roof as a just as versatile of an athlete as Dylan Gabriel was. And so people are expecting great things from him. The system isn't going to need to change very much. The athleticism on this team is just outstanding. The Ducks also are blessed with what should be one of the easiest schedules in the Big Ten. Their only big game, truly, as it stands right now, is against Penn State, and so they could fly under the radar, no pun intended, with the Ducks until that time, because people could underestimate them. But there's really no reason to have a lot of misgivings about where this team is and the likelihood that they can compete for another national championship this year. And I would expect them to have bounced back and learned not to take a rematch less seriously after what happened last year. But yeah, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts if you guys have seen anything or heard anything that gives you pause on the Ducks.
Well, I definitely agree that they do have a very easy schedule outside that Penn State matchup, but they do have to play in Penn State. They have to go there and win that game on the road. Honestly, I don't think that's something they can do this year. I think they're going to struggle there. They've struggled in the past on the road, and I do think that the Nittany Lions will take that game. And I do think that losing that game will not look great with their weaker schedule unless some of the other teams perform better than they're supposed to. So, but at the same time, if they only lose one game in conference, they'll probably make the Big 12 championship anyway. So,
yeah, that's the weird thing about the Big 12, man. The Big 10, excuse me. It's so top heavy. Yeah, the Big 10 is so incredibly top heavy that it kind of gives the top more margin for error than almost any other conference, honestly. Mm-hmm. And if Penn State is your only loss, then that's obviously a good loss. And the committee will see it that way. Now, that does mean that if they lose that game, then they're going to have to be absolutely dominant. And Oregon showed some flashes of vulnerability through last season. People forget that they were mostly dominant, but there were some teams that really hung with them for so later into a couple games. Sometimes they waited to put a lot of teams away until the fourth quarter or late in the third quarter on multiple occasions, and they showed that they could be slowed down. And obviously Ohio State came back, and I think Ohio State was pretty salty, and so that factored in quite a bit. But they also really obviously learned what those teams did that was effective. So yeah, Chance, anything else on Oregon?
I got a question for you guys, actually. Maybe a hot topic. Is Oregon a blue blood?
A blue blood?
Yeah. No?
No. They are new money. They were not good. They were not good until the Chip Kelly years, and once that happened, they became like the new team, like the Silicon Valley team.
How long ago was the Chip Kelly years?
I was gonna say, man, that's like you're going all the way back to like 2008. How long do they have to be relevant to the national scene?
I think you have to be at least somewhat relevant in the time before us to be considered a blue blood. But they are definitely.
You wouldn't consider Clemson in that category.
Well, yeah. What about Clemson?
I don't know their history that early, but if they don't have anything, then no, I wouldn't consider them that either.
They were kind of relevant at some points off and on until Dabo Swinney showed up. They were that kind of team.
Oh yeah,
they
before
would pop into
Dabo
the
Swinney,
rankings every now and then.
I remember when they had a bowl game against LSU one year with Taj Boyd, and they beat us. They were pretty good that year too, but I don't remember who was coaching that year. But they were a good team. That was only like 2011 or no, not 2011, 2012, I think.
All right. So here's another question: what about Nebraska? Are they a blue blood?
They would be considered a blue blood, but they definitely they've been taking some blood thinners lately, and it's been showing. Yeah.
So here's my thing with Oregon is it seems like they are that team that is almost there all the time, and they just fall apart, or there's something and they can't get over that hump. But we've seen teams be that and do that. I know historically Georgia has some, but they were stuck for a long time, and then it clicked, and it clicked hard. Same thing with Clemson. They were stuck and they couldn't get over the hump, and then they go over the hump, and it was like, okay, well, let's go get another championship. Let's show up in the championship game every year, right?
Yeah.
I'm just waiting to see Oregon take that step and make it happen. It seems like they've got the recruiting, they've got the money, they've got the name. I agree. They have 0 national championships, so I don't think you can call them blue blood yet. But I mean, I think they're on the cusp of it. If they can just get over that hump, I can see it happening. Another team that does that is Penn State. They're always right there, but not close enough. I'm just interested in seeing some of these teams actually make it, but we'll see. I don't see it happening for Oregon this year. I believe
Penn State does have 3 national championships.
They do. I'm saying recent history that they can't get over the hump, that they're always right up there ranked, and then they just can't quite get there. Last year was their closest yet.
People said that about Michigan for a long time. People thought that the culture of Michigan was done, Oh, yeah. Well, Chase, you look confused by that. You never heard people talking that way about Michigan?
Saying they're done, they definitely said that. But to question the history of Michigan is ridiculous. They're one of the winningest teams in college football history.
Yeah, and they hadn't won a national title since I think the late 80s. I want to say 88 or 89, but I forget.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been a while, but that doesn't take away from their success back then. It just means that they hadn't performed efficiently up until 2 years ago when they won the championship.
So, Chance, are you saying that Nebraska has lost their blue blood status?
For me, yeah. I don't remember the last time Nebraska's been good.
Hey, I mean, this is a fun stat to look up.
Remember that either.
Yeah. This is a fun stat to look up. I mean, it's depressing if you're a Nebraska fan, but they were a relevant top 15 to top 10 program almost every single year until the first season they joined the Big Ten. When they were in the Big 12 and every other conference before then, they were a force to be reckoned with. And then the first year they joined the Big Ten, they fell off dramatically, and they have never risen back to their heights since then.
They're like, what? We're going to make you a chew toy for Michigan and Ohio State, and let's see if you start making some championship games then.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because you see Texas be the opposite. They just got dominated in the Big 12, and then all of a sudden in the SEC, they're something again. So it's funny how it works sometimes.
There was some good timing for them on that. Obviously, it did not go that well for OU, who honestly was the better performer in the Big 12. They were constantly winning that conference and beating Texas. So it is interesting to see that the timing made it to where Texas could come in and dominate to a degree. Obviously, they couldn't beat Georgia twice, but and they did have a softer schedule. But Oklahoma struggled so bad that they were 6-6 at one point. So
anyway, back to the Big Ten.
Yeah, right. Let's move on to Penn State, shall we? Anybody got ideas on whether they're going to be able to be consistent? Chase, you were riding pretty high on Drew Aller, if I recall.
No, I didn't say anything special about their quarterback, but he's a solid guy. I think he's a good quarterback to have. He's not like an elite guy that's gonna win you games just by himself, but he's definitely a solid quarterback to have. So, and he comes in with more experience under his belt, and he had some playoff experience, won a game, played really close with Notre Dame, and I was actually at that game. I was at the Orange Bowl with Penn State and Notre Dame, and that was a really surprisingly pretty fun game to watch, even though there was some slowness at the beginning. Interestingly enough, though, there was a lot of people talking about that game at the end of it and how Penn State had exactly 0 completed passes to their wide receivers in that game, that entire game. Wow. They could only complete passes to their tight ends and their running backs. No completions to any of their wide receivers in the entirety of a semifinal game that would have brought them to the national championship. And that just can't happen if you want to push over the hump. And obviously, they do have a bit of an easier schedule coming on, but they do have to play Oregon. They play that at home. That should be a winnable game for them at home. The big one is Ohio State on the road in Columbus. They cannot beat Ohio State. It just does not happen. I think the last time they did was 2017 or 2016 is the last time they beat Ohio State. And it doesn't look like this is going to be the year for it, but you never know. So outside of that, they have a very, very cruising schedule. So they really should have just a cakewalk to the playoffs for them and probably a cakewalk to the Big 12 championship. Let's see.
Coming back to that Oregon matchup, that's going to be one of the biggest games of the year, I have a feeling.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think so. A great thing for them, though, is they did return a lot of their O-line, and they had one of the better O-lines last year. And they returned two top 15 running backs on the same team, in Nicholas Singleton and Kaysen Allen. So they're both had.
They've been relying on the running game to shore up a lackluster passing game for several years now.
Oh, yeah.
Do they show any signs this year of being able to break that and finally, Penn State is investing a lot into Drew Aller as far as they're really making a big deal about him being the guy there, and they have for a while. But yet they still struggle at wide receiver, and I believe they brought in a couple of transfers to try to help him out. Do you think that it's going to need like a redesign of the playbook, or do you think that Drew Aller's not the guy?
I don't think it has as much to do with Drew Aller as it does just not getting enough good guys at the skill positions. They haven't had a standout wide receiver. They had quite a few drops in that. Obviously, they didn't complete any passes in that game. They had a lot of drops. They were not on the quarterback. They were just right in the hands of the receiver and just dropped the ball wide open. I think I remember 3 like wide open passes dropped in that game. So, and you can't have that in the regular season, and they did it in the postseason. So you can't do that. But what I do worry about is honestly their coach, James Franklin. James Franklin has an amazing record overall, but his record against top 5 opponents as a head coach is 1-18. He is not beating teams that he's like not supposed to beat. He does not surprise people. He beats the teams he's supposed to beat, and he does not shine above that. So if he can't push past that with this weaker schedule and probably a lot easier of a walkway to the playoffs and to the national championship, then I don't think that they really have a chance at all.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of wait and see in this Big Ten conference. Going to be a whole lot of teams with strong records. there's going to be a whole big bunch of 9-win teams, and then there's going to be a lot of separation. Their number one wide receiver and their running back are both gone. One went to the NFL, the other transferred over to Georgia, and so you're left with just Luke Altmaier. Luke Altmaier is a good quarterback in my opinion, but he's got serious Jake Retzloff vibes, where you're not going to have him be making gigantic plays the entire game. He'll stay cool under pressure. Kyle McCord, similar vibes to him, where he's not going to be the hero, but he will win you games if you get him a supporting cast. I just don't see Illinois having that supporting cast. Any other thoughts on that?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Illinois returns just as many starters on their team as any other team in the Big 12 or Big 10. Is that not true?
They return a lot, but their most productive players, their two biggest weapons. I'm not saying their supporting cast is still pretty much intact, but the only reason they were really good is because those two would have some standout games, and the games that they lost were, I mean, they were kind of just tough games. Like, they couldn't figure it out for whatever reason. And that's kind of the story of Illinois football for a long, long time now, is you can get a lot of talent on your roster, but for some reason you can't close out games, and then they all transfer out, and then you're right back to square one. And they brought in a whole bunch of people that are from smaller schools, and then they've got a couple coming in from the FCS that are, I mean, they have the stats on paper, but these are FCS players. At the end of the day, they're looking for a shot at the bigger levels. And I don't know if they're going to be able to integrate and form anything that would be better than what they did last year.
I just looked it up, by the way. They're returning 18 starters from that Citrus Bowl victory over South Carolina.
I mean, that's solid.
That means that only 4 are not coming back. Well, enough to beat South Carolina.
It was a very close game, and it was a very low-scoring game.
Well, still, I mean, all you needed is a point of victory, right? One more point than the other team to win.
So what are you thinking their ceiling is then? I'm not thinking their ceiling is anything more than going 9-3 and then coin toss in the bowl game. I don't think they're any closer to a national championship, to a conference championship appearance than they were last year.
No, I don't think they're going to make a conference championship per se. That's going to be reserved to who has the easiest schedule out of the big dudes. But I mean, you look at their schedule and it's not horrible. I mean, you got Indiana, Ohio State, and then that's it. Oh, you also got Duke. Can't the ACC championship.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you
I was wondering when you were going to bring that up. That's that week 2 matchup. We'll find out a lot. And I'm being a little silly because referring to the your hot take that you've got on the board for Duke, but that really is this program is in a similar shape to Duke right now, and that game will be very telling.
Well, yes, it will be. Well, give me this. I mean, I'm not looking at a hard schedule here. Why can't they make the championship game?
Well, I think it's the sleeping giant that they have on their schedule in Ohio State.
Ohio State. All right, let's give a loss to Ohio State. It really comes down to the Indiana game, right?
Yeah. I don't know how the tiebreakers work, but if they lose to Ohio State, Penn State is only likely to lose one game this season, so I think they just might be out by default because of that. Doesn't mean they don't get a good bowl game and possibly get looked at even for the college football playoffs as a lower seed. But I think because of the somewhat weaker schedule that the committee won't look on them that fondly, so they might just squeak in, they might not. And also the question is, can you go into Indiana after the season that they had and beat them in Indiana?
Yeah. Well,
USC isn't a pipsqueak either. I mean, they definitely struggled, but that is a game that they could lose as well.
I agree on USC. That one's going to be the hard. Well, that and Washington, especially since you go on the road to Washington, right? But hypothetically, I mean, they've got experience. They can, and experience wins close games. Let's say these guys go 10-2. I mean, is that a playoff team?
If they're dominant in those victories against their smaller opponents, yes, but a lot of times they didn't show the dominance. I mean, they needed overtime to beat Purdue. They needed overtime to beat Nebraska. They won by 6 points against Kansas.
Hey,
Rutgers
don't
was
knock on
a
Kansas.
game.
Well,
What's that?
Oh, I said don't knock on Kansas, the Big 12 champions, right?
no, they're just runner-ups to ASU, obviously.
Oh, the runners.
Championship appearance. And
Oh,
I mean, I'm just saying that this team was really close. And then it was 21-17 against South Carolina. And really, if you go back and watch that, I mean, it was the defense that kept that. So if I could see improvement, it will be on the defense, where I'm thinking really this unit could probably be better than they were last year with that retention. They seriously need someone to become the guy on offense. Everybody in the Big Ten's got a good defense. They really do. It's a conference that's known for heavy defensive play. And if they don't have a guy who can consistently get open, who can help Luke Altmaier out, because Luke Altmaier he's not, I mean, unless he's the guy who takes a big step forward, but that would probably also require restructuring the offense.
if I could add to that,
Please.
I want to ask Chance a question. So you said if they lose 2 games, do they make the playoffs? That was your question?
Yep, that was the question.
All right. Is the second loss in the regular season or is it in the Big 12 championship?
I think it would be in the regular season.
Okay. So if that's what we're looking at as the committee, think about it in terms of Indiana last year. They had 1 loss and they were almost not considered for it. They gave them that spot because of 1 loss, but they didn't make the Big 12 championship, and they still were like, you got blown up by Ohio State. Do we want to put them in? They did. They ended up putting them in, and they got blown out by Notre Dame. But if they'll probably look at Illinois the same way because they don't have an out-of-conference schedule that's that daunting.
They've got the Duke Blue Devils. What are you talking about?
Duke, who is, while they might be blue bloods in basketball, they're definitely not that in they're definitely not that in football. So.
Well, but I mean,
I'd also refer to you the same exact argument that you're making for BYU is that's what happened to BYU last year. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, they had two rough losses.
Yeah, I mean, they have a little bit better of a schedule than Indiana did. By that I mean more difficult. They play Indiana at Indiana. That's going to be the proving game. Let's say for both teams. Yeah. Let's say that Duke has a good season, they lose to Duke and they lose to Ohio State, but they run the table, I think there's a chance. But if they lose to Indiana, if the loss is Indiana and Ohio State, you're probably toast because Indiana's going to get in above you. Or they're going to bring you down, depending on Indiana's season.
It's a really intriguing team. I'm not personally willing to put any stock or any faith in them to do anything better than what they did last year. Maybe, but it's a top heavy conference and they're at the bottom of the top, if you will.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think that's very fair.
Shall we talk about Ohio State?
Oh boy. Yeah.
Who wants to start that one off? Who wants to go ahead and talk about the Alabama of the Big Ten?
It's kind of a painful conversation because they're loaded. I mean, there's no way around it. These guys just have star power all over. They arguably have the 2 best players in college football in Jeremiah Smith and in Caleb Downs. So, I mean, they just got.
I thought you were going to say that they have both Travis Hunter and Arch Manning on their team this year.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the unofficial number 1, right? But I mean, Jeremiah Smith is a beast. That guy's going to turn it up in the NFL, and he's going to turn it up this year. Caleb Downs himself is as well. I think they have the best wide receiver group in the nation. They have a top 5 secondary in the nation, top 7 linebackers in the nation. I mean, there's just no weakness. They've got dudes at tight end. They've got Max Clare. The only things that you can say is Julian Sayin is not a proven guy, but he certainly was highly recruited and highly touted, and don't be surprised if he takes off and does well. maybe the
Ohio State
offensive
has not
line.
had an issue with young quarterbacks living
Yeah.
up to expectations in the past. They like I'm not saying that flippantly. They tend to pick good quarterbacks, and then they, regardless of who's been the coach in the last 15 years, it seems like whoever steps on the field is ready to go.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the only thing, if you can nitpick, and it's really nitpicking, is their offensive line could be maybe a little better, I think, in my opinion. But I mean, everywhere else you look at, and you're like, you wonder. I mean, the schedule is they've got some teams on there, but you
And
also wonder
that
if they're
was
going
what
to
yeah,
lose.
that's
Yeah,
what
Grambling
I'm saying
scares me.
though, is this team is either going to fall apart on this schedule, or they're going to be such a dominant number one. It's going to be similar
Yeah,
to, the 2021 and 2022 Georgia, where they're just going to go on a tear.
yeah,
Because opening with Texas,
yep,
then I mean you got Illinois, Penn State, and Michigan. It's in a conference that is top heavy, and they often avoid playing the big games. These guys are not getting off easy, and so we're not going to have a lot of room to do our usual gripes that we have about strength of schedule with Ohio State.
right. Yeah, I mean, if they go undefeated, we're going to have to eat it. There's no way around
Yeah,
it. They will be the best team, no argument. And we're going to
yeah,
find it really early in that Texas game. We're going to
yeah.
find out who's legit, who's not. Maybe they're both legit and it's a close game, but right off the gates, we're gonna have that, and it's.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be a fun game. We'll see how it
It's
goes.
certainly the biggest game of opening weekend. Absolutely.
There's a couple games, but yeah, this one's probably the game that you watch.
Yeah, there are some good matchups, but this one is absolutely the biggest one, especially when considering, like you were saying, the only big question marks for each of those teams is, can their quarterbacks live up to the hype on both sides of that Texas Ohio State game.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, there's on paper, man, these guys are monsters. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't see them being worse than a top 5 team. I just can't.
Yeah, I grit my teeth to admit it. I always want to see Ohio State mess something up, and just to give us a break from.
Possibility is always there with Ryan Day at head coach.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, you got to beat Michigan.
he's either going to pull out a national championship out of his beard, or he's going to pull off some absolutely inexplicable loss.
Yeah.
No. What other interesting teams that we got? You want to talk about teams that we've got a lot of question marks on? Nebraska. Is this the year that Nebraska finally rights the ship? We've been waiting since the day they joined the Big Ten to see Nebraska be legitimately good again. They have an experienced now former 5-star, former number 1 overall quarterback, Dylan Raiola, who has shown flashes of greatness, but he's lacked a supporting cast around him. Have Matt Rule, who's a great coach, great college coach, who is now implementing the 3rd year of his system. There's a lot of pieces there. My only big concern for them is the depth. They did some big things in the transfer portal. They've pulled in several 4 and high-ranking 4 and I think 1 or 2 5-stars from the transfer portal. But they also lost a couple. And now they appear to have beefed up the offensive line. But my concern with them is, how is their depth? If they're able to prove their depth and keep their depth okay, then this team could finally make some noise and really be a dark horse in this conference. But they are, as I'm seeing them now, they appear to be not prone to injury, but available for injury. Basically, if they get caught with the injury bug, then that could wipe them out. What's everybody else seeing?
I'm just interested in seeing if Dylan Raiola actually lives up to the hype. Is he going to make it by junior, senior year? Is he just going to be this guy of what if, everybody sees him as, and he pretends to be Patrick Mahomes almost, right? I mean, as far as looks, play style, everything, but he wasn't, and he isn't yet. and is he gonna be there? I mean, it would be exciting if he pulled that off. And I think college football would be in a better place if Nebraska was winning and took down a Penn State or Ohio State or anybody like that on their schedule. But I just don't see it. I mean, they go through the promised people all the time, and Raiola again, or you got Scott Frost who's going to save the day, and it never happens. To Connor's point, and what I don't believe in is they're cursed. They can't do it.
So you believe that Nebraska is cursed more than Texas Tech is cursed?
No, they're not cursed. There is no curse. They just need to run their organization better, but they're not cursed.
It's just a skill issue.
I will always blame the spirits for my college football misfortunes. There's no way I could just be wrong about something.
Obviously.
Yeah. So they've got a very interesting schedule, Nebraska. They've got an early matchup against Cincinnati at a neutral site. And normally, any game against Cincinnati since Luke Fickell left there is not an interesting matchup anytime. But Cincinnati is, even last year in the Big 12, they proved to be kind of that middle ground stalwart. Like, if you beat them, you're good. If you have failed to beat them, then your program really needs some work. Now, I do say that as, ASU lost to them, but that was a very close game that they were without Sam Levitt, and they played that game so conservatively. If Sam Levitt had played, I can almost guarantee you they would have won that game. That was the turning point in that last year's season for ASU, was that loss. But my point remains. And so having that game at a neutral site right off the bat is going to give them a chance to either live up to the hype and put on a performance that people are starting to pay attention to, or think, well, no, this is the same Nebraska we've seen. Better luck next year again. And then first conference game of the year is home against Michigan. If there's a time to prove yourself for Nebraska, it's in those two games. You go 4-0 through that stretch, and I will be able to put a sprinkle of hype around that team.
There's a good chance that they could do that because Michigan is obviously dealing with their issues, with their legal issues, and there's a good chance that their coach might get suspended for those games.
Yeah.
So they might be playing without a coach. So if Nebraska has any time to beat Michigan, now is the time. And if you do that, you really only got like USC and Penn State on here that are really bad. That are really bad for your schedule. So after that, you could, have a pretty good season.
Why I didn't pick up that Penn State game is because it's so late in the season that we would know by then if this was a good team or a bad team. That's going to become an interesting matchup if these other two games end up panning out as positives.
Maybe not. Sorry, go ahead, Chance.
I think that first game is so critical. I personally, I'm higher on Cincinnati than a lot of people. And it's going to be a high stakes game. I mean, almost off the bat, it's going to be a high emotional roller coaster going up for the fans and for the team, or it's going to be like, we lost the first game again, which they seem to do quite a bit, and it's over. The emotional roller coaster of losing that game could cost them the entire season. They've got to come out with their A game that first week.
Yeah. Cincinnati's a proud program, and people have made big mistakes overlooking them in the past, regardless of what state their program's in. So let's move on to the LA schools for a little bit.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I mean, I only want to spend all of 30
take
seconds
a break
talking
real quick
about...
while you rant.
Yeah. Let me just... All right. I've been waiting for this moment.
His whole life, not just this whole season. His whole life.
I will take every opportunity that I ever can to let the whole world know just how bad the city of Los Angeles is for college football. I mean,
I think Connor's a little sour over the whole Pac-12 thing. Just a little bit.
A little bit. It's not like I'm super invested in it or anything, but they are just the worst. No,
Your veins popping out again, Connor.
yeah, a little bit. Yeah. No, every time I just hear their names. No, they did. They've gotten they're probably the teams that have fallen off the worst since the restructuring, which they started because they thought that they were going to be able to just go into the Big Ten and steamroll. They're like, oh, if we're out of the Pac-12 where we couldn't really win a championship against Utah or consistently beat just the other school in LA, they kept going back and forth every year, then surely we can consistently beat Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and Oregon and Washington, who we also consistently lose to, even with Heisman players on our roster. Yeah, let's temper that expectation. But boy, do they have money, and therefore they just decided to implode the entire conference. And USC might be on an upswing again. But UCLA, that team's looking rough. I mean, they got Nico now, but man, one bright spot. But I mean, I don't know if you guys have any other takes on those two teams.
Yeah, so for USC, I think they're gonna compete this year. I don't think they're gonna be in the Big 12 championship, but I think they'll be at the top of it, somewhere around where Illinois is at. I think that game between USC and Illinois will be pretty telling. They got Michigan right after that. Obviously, the one that's going to hurt them, even though it's not in the conference, is Notre Dame. Like, I don't think that's a game they can go into Bend and win. But other than that, I think. Oh, and Oregon at the end of the season, so that really hurts. So
yeah, they've got a pretty tough schedule.
Yeah,
in the second half.
Yeah, they definitely have a tougher schedule at the end of the season, but I do think that they have a ceiling. They could get like 9 wins, and that's a pretty good outing for what they've just did last season, where they struggled to do anything. So UCLA, on the other hand, I do agree. I don't see them competing very well. They'd be lucky to get a bowl game. Maybe Nico could be their savior and pull out some wins that they definitely would not have gotten, but I don't think Nico is that good. He's definitely a talent, and he definitely helped Tennessee win some games that I don't think they would have won without him. And I do think Tennessee is a worse team without him, but I don't think that he's going to add 4 wins to their season and put them in the conversation for anything.
People forget very quickly, or seem to have forgotten very quickly, just how good Tennessee's running game was last year. Tennessee's running game was record-breaking last year, but Nico was such I don't want to say controversial figure, but there was so much attention paid to him for both the highs and lows that he presented that it took attention off of that. And I don't think, he had a couple of kind of heroic plays, but he had a lot of times where he really fell short. And especially it was shown in that Alabama game was the textbook of that. He was either throwing a touchdown or it was like, dude, what are you even thinking? And I don't think that gets better just because you're at UCLA now. I really don't.
Or when they lost to Arkansas. So that was definitely a struggle fest for them as well.
Yeah, and mentally that loss I think was tough for that team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'd like to think that USC will be able to make something happen of all the recruits that they bring in, but for whatever reason, the last couple of years, their player development has just not been there. They're recruiting just as well as they ever have, and yet they're not getting the most out of any of them.
Well, I think the question is, with really any Lincoln Riley team, is what's the defense going to do? Is the defense going to help you at all, or is it just going to be a gun show the entire time? They have not had a good defense, even when they had their Heisman and Caleb Williams. They were going a smoke show with Shedeur Sanders in Colorado when Colorado had 3 wins that season. So that's definitely not a great thing to do. So
yeah.
Who can they get on the pass rush? Last season they were 15th in the Big Ten in pass rush in sacks. So they need to significantly improve on the defensive end. They only have 2 returns on the offensive line. They lost 3 people, and I don't see it for them.
How are you seeing? You're saying that they could get 9 wins though.
I think they could get 9 wins, but I think that's because they'll be playing a Michigan team that I don't think is. I don't think they're going to be there. I think they're going to get beat by this legal stuff. I don't think they're going to be the Michigan of old. I think they're going to be the Michigan of last season. They're definitely going to lose to Notre Dame and probably Oregon, but outside of that, those are the three losses I have for them. So
in 2023 they got their coach suspended for like 4 or 5 weeks, and they won every single one of those games too.
yeah, but Michigan has to be on the road, and they last season they did compete with them pretty well. So.
Chance, what are your thoughts on the Michigan rebuild process? I'm more optimistic than I feel like a lot of people are being for them. They held with a lot of teams, and I mean, obviously they beat Alabama and they beat Ohio State to end the year. Like they also had I don't want to even call them inexplicable losses because they were, you could easily explic them, but by being a rebuild after the national championship. But this is a team that's still recruiting very well, and the continuity from Jim Harbaugh into Sharon Moore is, I mean, Sharon Moore was clearly welcomed and people were excited to have him there, and rightfully so. I mean, he was the linchpin of the right-hand man of Jim Harbaugh that year, and he's going to take some time to step into the head coaching role, but I don't think it's going to take nearly as long as people think. I think that people should be a little bit more afraid of Michigan this year than they were last year. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the heart of Michigan, their identity is intact. We're just going to be physical. We're going to have a defense that is disruptive, and we're going to beat you that way. And I think Michigan showed the flashes of potential last season. They also just fell on their face. But I mean, we can't forget that they're pretty sick of not having a quarterback. And so what did they do? They said, "Hey, let's get all the freaking billionaires we can and let's just steal the best quarterback out there that we can." Chase, I see you shaking your head. What's up, man?
Yeah, Bryce Underwood, love that guy. Love how he was willing to overturn his commit for money. Good for him, man. Good luck to him. Beat Ohio State. I'll be totally happy to see him do that. But other than that, if he loses a couple extra games,
I mean, Michigan certainly thinks that was the missing link, is that they have everything except for the QB, and they said we're going to do whatever it takes to get him and take down Ohio State, and we'll see. I mean, kind of
I
on
mean,
paper.
in their defense, that was what it took in 2023. Was
Yeah.
JJ McCarthy finally stepping up, and people really, I think to this day, people don't appreciate how good JJ McCarthy was that year. The defense for Michigan was so good, and that stole the show, and they had a phenomenal running game. But JJ McCarthy, even on a few games when he wasn't like locked in the passing game, he could move and extend plays and make things happen. And he wasn't the fastest guy, he wasn't the shiftiest guy, but he was so smart with the way he played that he could wait until a bad play became a good play, and he did that all year long. And for 5 years before that, that's what Michigan was waiting on. Nobody's ever accused Michigan of having a defense full of holes, and usually not having having a low quality line or something. It's usually been, can they get a passing game to complement the rest of it? And he was it. Once they found him, then I mean, it was, what was it, 15 straight wins, and then boom, they're right back to the top of history.
Well,
And
I mean, they certainly think that they have it now, and then I mean, just keep in mind, Michigan, they came around, and when they won the championship, it came off of a year where we were wondering, is Jim Harbaugh going to be the head coach? Is he the guy, right? And so they came off a bad year, and they put the pieces together and put that championship up, and they won it. Is this the next time? They got the piece that they thought they needed. Could we see a championship? I don't know. I know there's suspensions, and I know there's different things, but it does make you wonder. We're going to see really quick if it's just the quarterback or if they've got some other major issues.
I'm not necessarily going to hype up Michigan to the point where I think it's a title year, but I think that they're going to show marked improvement, and they have a fairly favorable schedule in the Big Ten. I mean, it does depend. Well, their conference schedule is somewhat favorable. It depends what we get out of Oklahoma this year. They've got a primetime matchup in week 2 again at Oklahoma, and then they're at Nebraska, and so those 2 games. Yeah, that first 4 weeks is gonna be really finding out the identity of this new team. And then, but if they stay solid through that, then Wisconsin, I think, is just going to unfortunately fall apart. I would love to see Wisconsin be good again, but they're shooting themselves in the foot every chance they get. But other than that, like their mid to late stretch of the season until the game, it's not bad.
Yeah, they got a pretty easy schedule. I actually do have them at the top of the conference, even though I said that I don't think they're going to be as good as the Michigan of old. I think they're going to get up there, but simply because their schedule is so weak. So I do have them losing to Oklahoma, though. So that's.
I think I do.
You do, huh?
You think
Oklahoma's going to be good.
It's hard to go into Norman and win that game, even though they had a bad season last year. They still beat Alabama.
Yeah.
And that's because they went into Norman and they.
Alabama thought Norman was an easy place to play too.
Yeah. It is not an easy place to play. So that game is going to be very, very telling for this team and for Oklahoma as well. So, but I do think that that's going to be one where they struggle. And obviously the USC game, I think they're going to struggle there. But they have a great trend of beating Ohio State. So if they do that, they might really mess up the Big Ten championship there. So
will this be 5 in a row or 6 in a row for them if they pull it off this year?
5 in a row.
Will be 5? All right.
Last year was four in a row because there were people that had been there their entire collegiate careers that had never lost to Ohio State. So.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I could just listen to people talk about that game for the rest of it. And I don't even claim Michigan as a fandom. It's just, oh my gosh, they're so much easier to like than the Buckeyes.
I think it depends on who you ask. I think Michigan State has a thing against Michigan, even more so than how Ohio State. But
yeah, that's there's a little less substance to that one though.
I don't know. I think there's some Big Ten fan bases that they do not like Michigan.
Well, yeah, in the conference, but on the national scene, most people on the national scene, I think, would absolutely rather see Michigan any given year than Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, or Texas.
Well, to be fair, I don't think you hear as much stuff from the media about Michigan as you do every year about the Ohio State University. So yeah. I think that has a little bit to do with that.
Well, and maybe they're just getting more marketing because the median household income of an Alabama referee is a lot higher than that of a Michigan referee. I don't mean anything by that, of course.
But no, you would never say anything to imply anything ever.
I would never outright state just how many lucky breaks the Crimson Tide has gotten over the last 20 years.
Lucky no calls.
Yeah, pure luck.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, I guess we could just blitz through the not so dark horses of Wisconsin, Rutgers, Purdue, Northwestern, Minnesota, Maryland. Anybody seeing anything? Anybody got any hot takes on any of those teams doing anything more than reaching a bowl game this year in their wildest dreams?
Does it count as a hot take if you think one of these teams might not win a single game?
Well, okay.
Which one? That honestly doesn't narrow it down.
Hey, no, I think I know what you're talking about. Did you know that one of these teams returns one starter? That's it.
That's worse than Oklahoma State.
One starter on offense or defense.
Is that Northwestern or Purdue?
It's Purdue.
Yeah,
they had 70 players transfer in and out.
70?
Yeah.
Isn't a roster only like 80?
It's like, yeah, I think we're like 110 almost, but yeah, I mean, they decimated their team. I mean, they've got a new head coach and he's trying some new things, but man, oh man, that I've never heard of one starter. It's the running back. So hopefully he's just lights out, because otherwise you're meshing a whole new team together in the Big Ten. They've got their over under at like 3 games right now.
How did they get that?
That's better than ASU was last year.
How did they what?
How did they get that one player to stay? One starter.
That's actually the big question. Yeah, everybody else left. How come he was like?
Honestly, they're probably like, okay, we can give you all of our NIL money, I guess.
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much like a Subway gift card, but
Could
will
you
you
imagine
take it?
the coaches were overhauled, so you didn't retain coaches? It's just one dude who was like, "Yeah, I guess I like the Boilermakers." Like, that's crazy.
Is it
How
like Drew
boring would that
Brees' kid
be
or
going
something
to
like that?
practice? What?
Is it like Drew Brees' kid or something like that? Someone who would have some serious loyalty to
Oh,
Purdue
I
for
gotta
some reason?
remind myself his name.
Ugh.
He was actually
But
born.
either
Devin?
way, and their schedule is rough in the Big 12. They probably have maybe the toughest schedule, not just conference schedule, but they've got. They start off with Ball State, which I mean, even a MAC team honestly might be able to do them in this year. Ball State can sometimes field an okay squad in the MAC, but Southern Illinois, I mean, small time FCS program, but outside of that, USC, Notre Dame, Illinois, all in a row. And then honestly, it doesn't get much easier with Minnesota right after that. Then Northwestern and Rutgers maybe normally would actually be an even playing field, but after going through that gauntlet, that their confidence is going to be pretty shaken. And then to end it, you have Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, and Indiana in a row.
Yeah.
This is tough, man.
Yeah, they're toast. I feel bad for their head coach. He should not have taken that job.
Yeah.
Maybe he surprises us, but yeah, him and Devin Maccabee. We'll see what happens. You know who else
Versus the
has a
world.
rough schedule? Is
Yeah.
Wisconsin. I've got their key games at Alabama, at Michigan, versus Ohio State, at Oregon, at Indiana, versus Illinois. That is brutal. And I gotta ask the question: is Luke Fickell on the hot seat if he can't do anything?
I've gone back and forth on that because Luke Fickell is a great coach. I mean,
5-7.
But moving from the not the Mountain West. What was Cincinnati before the Big 12? I'm totally drawing a blank.
The American.
They were at Conference USA. Was that where they were? Or American? American? Yeah, AAC. Yeah, that's a big jump. And Wisconsin is a school that is a very proud program. They're embroiled in so much legal nonsense right now. I would really like to see him be given a chance to build a program and get out of this legal thing. It reminds me a lot of what Kenny Dillingham walked into at ASU when they were it was the aftermath of COVID was just hanging over them. And yeah, it was back-to-back 3-9 seasons. And then he just got a hold of the reins, figured out how to be a head coach at a power school. And I think that Luke Fickell currently has a stronger resume historically, just because as a head coach, I mean, he's got more experience. He has as many playoff appearances as Kenny Dillingham. I think he's proven that he can also navigate these waters of taking a school from relative obscurity to. Now, granted, Cincinnati has never been a pushover of a team. Historically, they're a good team. He didn't inherit a mess at Cincinnati, but he didn't inherit a playoff contender. That's for sure.
Can I throw a name at you?
Please.
Scott Frost.
What about Scott Frost? Go ahead.
I mean, goes from UCF, has a similar situation, goes to Nebraska and Wisconsin. I mean, I know that they have legal troubles and this and that, but historically, they're better than this. And Luke Fickell's not taking them to where they were before. And we know how Scott Frost ended. Is that not the fate of Luke Fickell?
I sure hope not. I still don't fully understand why Scott Frost couldn't get any momentum going at Nebraska. I really don't. Yeah. But he couldn't for whatever reason. And
well, I'll tell you what, I would be shocked if Wisconsin had better than a 500 season.
Yeah, I think they're Meyer. I think there's too much going on around him. I don't think that there's enough recruiting hype. Chase, go ahead.
Well, yeah, no, I just think they've been left in the dust. I don't think they can compete at that level with the teams that are at the top. I think even in Illinois would be dogging on them right now. So I just don't think they're in it.
I actually think they got better. Granted, they were 5-7 last year, but I mean They brought in Jeff Grimes, a new offensive coordinator who's had success at other programs. He's had success at BYU and Baylor, and now he comes in. They brought in Billy Edwards Jr. from Maryland, who had the second most passing yards in the Big Ten. O-line is looking pretty good. They got some guys in at defense, especially up front, to stop the run. I mean, I see positives to what they did, but I mean, that schedule, man, I mean, there's no room. There's no room. I mean, I can't see them getting past 6 games just because of the schedule. And so, I mean, if you can't win any of the big games, which we'll see, I mean, if they can get close, if they can win one or two, maybe he keeps his job. But if he can't win any of them, I think he's gone. Because I think they're just going to be like, well, that just proves we're not a big time program if we can't beat the big time teams, and you're gone.
Yeah. And this is my only real hard defense for keeping him is this schedule. Combined with everything else that the program is going through, having this schedule is, I mean, arguably the hardest schedule that any Big Ten team has.
Oh, yeah.
If there wasn't all of this other extraneous drama, they would still be dealing with that. And I just don't think it would be fair to can him just that, you know, with all of those things hanging over him. Now, get through this, and if he still shows that it's not that it's not just that there's a bunch of drama hanging over him and he's just as that the program is just as unsuccessful when it's drama free, then yes, obviously. And I don't think that will take more than 1 or 2 more seasons, but I would hate to see it happen this time.
I think he has to win 2 or 3 of those big games, in my opinion. If he only wins 1 or 0, he's done. I would be done with him because you're not a big boy program. I don't care what applications you got. I don't care what we've got during the program. You're Wisconsin. You have 6 or 7 chances. It's not about getting to the championship game, getting to the playoffs. It's, can you beat a big boy or 2 and prove it to us? If you can't, you're done. It's not going to happen. He's going to have more chances than anybody else in the country.
Fair. Chase, you want to be the tiebreaker on this one?
Yeah, I don't have anything to say about that, to be honest.
Great answer.
Let it play out.
Now, I was going to say that since we're on the question of hot seats for coaches, and since you love USC so much, what do you think about Lincoln Riley if he has a bad season?
I don't know. USC will find excuse after excuse after excuse for why they had a bad season. The days of them firing a head coach, like, what was that? That wasn't Clay. Was that Clay Helton that got fired on the tarmac? I forget which coach that was. They didn't even let him ride the bus home.
No, that was a different team.
Was that Sarkisian?
Sarkisian?
I think it was.
I think that was Steve Sarkisian, actually.
When he was an alcoholic?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, and then Nick Saban basically saved his life and career.
Did that for multiple USC coaches and Lane Kiffin as well. So,
yeah, it was either Lane Kiffin or Sarkisian. I forget which one. But one of them got fired. But the days of that, I think are over for now.
You know what's crazy to me about USC is they have so many coaches that they can't make happen, and then all of a sudden, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss is holding his ground. We got Steve Sarkisian at Texas that is, one of the top programs in the country now. They've got QBs that will transfer out of there and become superstars. Your Jackson Darts, your, all these different players. How come they can't do it at USC? How come they can do it everywhere but USC? It's mind-boggling.
Culture. It really is.
But who's dictating the culture there then?
The admin, I'm telling you. It's a weird place to be. And I mean, it's the same kind of admin attitude that caused you to secretly go and make a backroom deal with the Big Ten and jump ship. Like, it's just all indicative of that. And I think until they allow themselves a reality check, I think that's when they'll come back.
Do you think distraction plays a part of it?
Like the environment or what?
Well, being in LA, having all these things around you, do you think there might be some distractions that take it away from football, or they think that they're better than they are, and so maybe they indulge in other things and then they get pounded by whoever they go against?
I think maybe for like the very high profile players, but I don't think you're going to have just regular players just doing anything more special than what people
But
do at Texas A&M or Ohio State.
they
They're all
have high
playing.
profile players though.
Yeah,
They
no,
always do.
I could see it for the couple of the higher players, but I don't think that it causes way more of a difference being there than in Miami or Texas A&M or whatever.
I'm just trying to find the excuse. I don't get it. I don't get why USC can't be good and why everybody who gets out of USC becomes these legendary coaches and players. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is culture.
That's what I'm saying is it's a sense. Maybe I shouldn't attribute it to maybe entitlement is the symptom. That program has been resting on their laurels for almost 20 years now. And I think that they've lost their hunger because they think that because of their name that they deserve a certain amount of credit, a certain amount of accolades, and they haven't found a coach yet who is willing to walk in there and flip over a table and say, all right, we're gonna put all these national championship and Heisman trophies in a closet until someone steps up and we earn the right to display these again because those people who've gone before us, we're embarrassing them how we've been the last 10 years. I don't think that coach has been there. And I don't know if they're looking for that kind of coach because that would require them to admit that they're not what they once were. And I think they've had just enough success. Just enough. I mean, they have had a Heisman recently. They've had just enough success to not they haven't hit rock bottom as a program. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, this could be the year for them though. This is going to be a year where they either hit rock bottom or they finally do actually turn it around.
Well, all they got to do is win like 2 games, and then all of a sudden they'll be back. They're back, just like
Yeah.
It's like when Texas was back every single year.
Yeah. Yep.
Texas goes and loses to Alabama, and then they're in the top 25.
Still hasn't won a conference championship, by the way.
Texas, yeah, in what, like 10
Made
years?
the playoffs, didn't
won
win
the playoff game, and they still won 2. They won 2 playoff games, and they still haven't won a conference championship.
Yeah, I mean, if you count the ASU.
Yeah, I will admit to reality of that loss. Now the circumstances of that loss are always going to be in question, but the score is etched in history for better or worse. But yeah, they played on the same football field as Alabama, Chase. I don't think you understand how good that makes them. All right, guys, any other parting shots on the Big Ten?
Nope.
Go Boilermakers. Good luck.
Somebody has to cheer for them.
Win a couple games, man.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? That one, what is his name? Devin Mockabee. He's got his fan base going. They are excited to see him back on the field.
They're the only ones who are going to see him for a second time. Or he's the only one.
The only ones. How is it going to be? Sorry, I have to do this one more time. As a fan base, you see your team on the field for the first time, and you're like, okay, I remember Devin, but like, who is this team? Who's that guy that just caught the ball?
You're really, really inflating the ticket sales at Purdue.
Well, I'm just the one Purdue fan out there. He's going to be very confused this season.
Do they have names on the back of their jerseys?
I don't know.
Purdue?
Because maybe they just shouldn't. If they do, maybe they should just take those off.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When you earn names, we'll give them back to you.
Yeah. When you win at least 3 games.
Let's be putting out all the like manifesting good vibes, crossing our fingers, burning sage that the most seemingly predictable conference in college football for once will not be, even though all the evidence is pointing to the usual suspects. I really hope that it'll be different, but who's to say?
All right, yeah. Well, we'll see how the season goes, but For now, that was our Big Ten breakdown for you guys. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time on the Concussion Protocol podcast.
Yep.